Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Ellen Wier, and she has an amazing near-death experience and life afterwards. Feel free to start wherever you like.
Thank you so much. Well, I guess everything started with my near-death experience, so I can start there. I used to ride horses as a kid. I was 12 years old, and I suffered a head injury and was in a coma for about 5 days. And my parents were told to play music at my bedside or movies to kind of stimulate my mind. I was in the ICU. And of course, I don't remember that, but I think they chose well because they chose a movie that was mostly music. And so I eventually ended up coming out of the coma to music. And that's kind of the beginning of my story.
Okay.
So the day that they chose, I remember being on a raft of sorts, and there were pink clouds kind of around
Could you
me.
go back a little bit and tell how you died?
Oh, I was kicked in the head by a horse.
Okay, that's just it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I was, well,
Usually,
I was at a Western lesson, and the cinch wasn't pulled tight enough because horses tend to expand their belly to avoid the discomfort of like the saddle feeling on them. So the teacher hadn't tightened the saddle enough. The cinch slipped, and then I kind of slipped on the saddle, apparently. The horse reared up and kicked me in the temple. So I was taken to a local hospital in Hillsborough, Texas. They didn't have the neurology team to work with me, so they moved me to a hospital in Waco. And so I was in an ICU there when I had my NDE. So I found myself on a raft. It was kind of a wooden raft of sorts, and I had pink clouds on either side of me, and there was ascended Master Jesus in front of me, and a man on the left with a bald head, long brown robes, and bare feet. And I didn't know who he was. So I tried to describe this for my book title to just show a little bit of what it was like. There were these pink clouds. I was there. And I remember feeling very, very safe, very held, very warm. But my true experience of the light happened after that. I was lifted from that place into first a light realm that was very bright with different colored streams and trees and music that I'd never heard before that was absolutely beautiful. And then I moved into what I call the golden realm of light. And so rather than being a place, it was more of an experience. And I felt the fullness of this place. And I didn't have a body. There was no word or human consciousness at all connected to this, like absolutely nothing. But I felt the love, the unconditional love, and I felt this like full warm pressure of light all around me, like a blanket. And I just became that warmth and that love. And I remember the expansiveness of it, the completion, the wholeness, the love. And I could have been there for a day or a year or lifetimes, but I found myself back on the raft again after that. And Jesus was communicating with me through his thoughts. And it was very simple. He was asking me if I wanted to stay there or if I wanted to live. And I didn't have a human mind. I still felt like me in on the raft. I had become the love in the realm, but I felt like me on the raft. And I remember I didn't make the choice from a conscious place. I didn't think about it like in that way. In fact, the first response that I had was that I wanted to stay because it felt so beautiful and so whole and real. But I was shown the trajectory of my father's life and then my brother's life, just a little snippet, and that they wouldn't actualize their plan on this planet if I chose to stay. And so my soul chose to stay. And it was then that I was given human human emotion. I felt gratitude, like I get to live. This is a gift. All of these things just flooded to me that, that this is the illusion and that's the reality. That most of what we worry about and think about on this planet doesn't matter. It's all about connecting with I mean, I know this now, I can say this now. It's about connecting with our God self and co-creating and seeing our power. And it was just beautiful. I got so many messages, that people matter, that relationships matter, that we lift each other up, that we can change our consciousness, that we can create our reality, um that that we hold this power. So I was overwhelmed with gratitude. I felt this expansion in my heart, and I gave thanks at getting to live. And do you hear a lot of background noise?
No.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, there's a gardener out there, and he just started blowing the yard. So I was like,
I heard a
um,
slight muffling a little, but I don't now.
yeah, because I was like losing my concentration for a minute. But so I felt this gratitude, and in that moment, I decided that I would give a vow. And I said, in my mind, we were communicating through our mind, I vowed to come back and heal people with music. Because if I got to live, I wanted to give something back. And I was so grateful that I gave a vow to give thanks every day for every experience, no matter what, knowing that it was all happening for a reason, because everything happens for a reason. That was very clear to me, everything. So those are the two vows that I made. And then everything went dark. I saw a music staff in the distance. It was different colored notes on the staff kind of moving along, but I couldn't hear anything. I could just see it. And I saw it getting closer and closer until it basically went through me. Everything was dark except for this tiny sound that was music. It was classical music. It was barely audible. It kind of came through as light as well as sound. I focused everything on my energetic being on that light, and on that sound, until it became so loud in my head that the only thing I could do was force my eyes open. And I was in the ICU, and the nurse came over, and I could see the credits on the rolling cart next to my ICU bed. Um, and it was the credits of a Disney movie that was 90% classical music. And so, from that point on, I knew my why. I knew why I was here without a doubt. I chose to come back. And then I ended up going to a grad school for music therapy. I was a musician, and I just poured my heart into music. And then went to grad school for music therapy after getting my bachelor's in music. I learned about music therapy, and my dad said, now, if you're going to do music therapy, you need a backup degree. So I had to find a school that had both. And so I went to a school in Boulder, Colorado that had both a master's in music therapy and transpersonal counseling psychology, which is spiritual psychology. And it was a Buddhist founded university. It was fully accredited, it's a legit university, but it's founded in the Buddhist principles. So when I went there and was walking up to my first meditation class, or the first week in, I saw a depiction of a man with the long brown robes and had a bald head. And he wasn't the big belly Buddha, he was thinner. And I knew that he was the other being that was with me. And it was through my training at the school that I found my how. How am I going to connect people with their light? And I learned a process of using music to journey through altered states of consciousness. I developed a process on my own throughout the years. The more downloads I get, the more I add to the process, where people leave their body, communicate with their presence directly, receive whatever they need to receive, and then come back and we process it during the session. And so now I get to do exactly what I chose to come back and do. And I love it. I live in my purpose every day.
Can you repeat that last part for me? How's this work? I'm sorry.
How does what work?
You help people and then they process it in a session and
Yeah. I
like,
mean, it's it's wonderful. They come in, I use theta brainwave entrainment with frequency of crystal bowls to help people move out of the conscious mind and to move more into the right brain where they're into the place of being able to visualize and co-create outside of the limitations of the left brain. We use brainwave entrainment through this, and then I use breath work, I use visualization, downloads of light that come to me that I see in the session. This happens both in person and online. They then journey, after they receive this download of light, they journey through classical music program. The classical music program is from a process called the Bonney method of guided imagery in music. It's been studied since I think the 50s and 60s at its ability to activate the same parts of the brain as LSD. And what's really cool about that is a non-psychotropic way of using classical music to leave the conscious mind, to go into a higher state, to connect with that whatever comes through. Most people feel euphoric, light. They connect with light beings, loved ones past. They feel that love that I felt. And then when they come out of it, I'll give them a reading to what I saw during the session. We talk about what it meant to them and how it connected to their intentions for the day. We tie it all together in the most beautiful way, because animals will come through, images of, different cultures, and flowers and plants will come through with meaning. And so I know how to help them find the meaning through that process to integrate it back into their lives. So basically, it's kind of a way to shift reality moving forward, because they've anchored into something greater than the story that we're stuck in, if that makes sense.
Is the goal of this wisdom, enlightenment?
The goal is for them to connect to their loving presence, to their God presence. The goal is for them to receive whatever they are meant to receive, and through music. And for me, it's not about me, it's about them, because each of us is our own greatest teacher, our own greatest guru. And so often we seek outside of ourselves for answers. And I think that any process that can take us directly into our God presence is how we truly can change our lives. So that's the goal. I just get the honor of being able to do it through music and sound, and my own near-death experience always come through in the session itself. Yeah.
It does. Like your NDE comes closer in your memory.
Well, the essence of that energy it channels through me. It's like I'm not the one leading the session. It's like that golden light that I was in is what's holding the space. So I always bring in that experience. It's like when you've had a near-death experience, many of us want to feel that in the human form, because there's no human words that can describe it. I do my best job, but I mean, it's a feeling, it's an experience. And so for me, I take myself back into that light so that I can somehow bring that experience to the people I work with, and they can have a glimpse of it. My book, I almost called it A Glimpse of Heaven, because I vowed to come back and heal people with music and help people heal through music. But what I'm really finding is that I'm using the music as a way for them to connect with themselves, with their God self, not the human self. It's totally different.
Now, do you do this all online, or do you have a physical place?
I mean, people come to my home or online. It works just as well online because I have the recording equipment to use the binaural beats. And many people have heard of that. Binaural beats is when you have a different sound a different frequency coming in through each ear. So I use special microphones to pick up two different frequencies at the same time, so that the brain itself is receiving the vibration. The brain changes its frequency. That's called brainwave entrainment. And actually, if anyone wants to look it up, there was a study by the US government in the 80s and 90s called the Gateway Project. I think a lot of people are talking about this now. And they were looking into the study of astral projection and manifestation and all sorts of other psychic abilities. And they found that people could access these states through transcendental meditation and Kundalini yoga, various different practices of mindfulness, but it would take years. But if you look on like the third page of the study or the third part of the study, they talk about how a faster way to access this is through having different frequencies in each ear and learning how to, shift the frequency in the brain so that certain parts of the brain are moving to the forefront where we can start to implant beliefs and ideas and we can shift our view of the world. That's what's happening. Hold on one second. Sorry, my dog is he barks when the gardener comes
Oh,
to he doesn't normally come in the morning, so I'm kind of like trying to stay focused, but the dog was about to go nuts.
okay. Now that been, excuse me, is it binaural beats, if I'm saying it right? Is that the same thing that Karen Newell is involved in? Eben Alexander's girlfriend?
Potentially, not, no, I don't
Okay.
think, I don't know. I'm not familiar with her. I'm familiar with him as an NDEer. And I'm sure that he, as a scientist and doctor, understands how the brain works and the frequency of the brain. And I'm sure he's probably read up on that too. For me, my approach was downloaded to me over the course of 20 years. And now I'm finding the science that supports it even more. And so I'm just trying to share with people that we all have access to that.
Now you've traveled like teaching this, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I teach. Um, but if, yeah, I mean, I've been to other countries like teaching this work. I teach online. I have a course of my own that people can purchase to learn how to play the bowls and then also the transpersonal experiencing. And I think that's what makes me quite different than other sound healers or music therapists is that I have a master's in spiritual psychology. So I bridge the psychological realm with this work because there are three ways to experience my work or this process. And one is as you're learning to do it for yourself is psychological. So your experience may mirror and reflect what you're going through in your life. And so you might have things come up in imagery like, oh, I got to this rock and I couldn't get past it and I felt really stuck. And so if you're in a group session, I would say, how does that reflect on your life? But if you're in an individual session, I would say, let's talk to the rock, right? Like, what is the rock communicating with you? Oh, the rock needs a gemstone. Okay, give it a gemstone. The rock needs love. So you speak and communicate, interact with the imagery so that you understand what is needed. And then you come back out of it and you're like, oh, it needed love. What part of you needs love? Because we're shifting things on a transpersonal level. People don't need to understand it while it's happening. It's like being in a movie. They just experience little by little what the journey is bringing them to. They might like, oh, I sent the rock love and then I ascended into this higher realm and my grandmother came to me and she had a message or she had a gift. And I felt complete love or she held me or I see my younger self. So basically we're traveling through higher levels of consciousness to clear what we need to clear, but we don't have to talk about it for weeks and months and years. We just like, okay, all right, we did it. We did it in the session, and then that's how you access this. And then they access more information, and then they might go into their body and like, oh, I'm feeling it in my heart. Okay, what's your heart saying? This is why this work has been really good for chronic pain for people, because they can actually learn to communicate with their body, find out what the body's asking for, give the body what it needs, and then they move into new states of awareness and lift out of their body again, so it's very different for everybody.
You were in the movie Beyond the Grave.
I was excited to be one of the near-death experiencers in that movie. It was such a well done documentary.
Now Eben was in that as well, right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just happened to glance at that a little bit ago.
Mhm.
So that was 2003 movie, I think.
No,
Looks like
no,
it's you can see it online now.
no, that's a different,
2023.
yeah,
I may say 23.
2023.
Yeah.
And it won Best Paranormal Film of the or Documentary of the Year at the Cannes Film Festival in France last April or
Awesome.
March. And then we walked at the Beverly Hills Film Festival in April as well, which was like the same day my book came out, so it's kind of cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what's the name of your book?
It's called Waking Up in Heaven, Living with Purpose Through Afterlife Wisdom, because there's another book of the same title, but mine is the pink one. And it has a at the end of every chapter a practice to take the reader through the lessons that I experienced on the other side and how they can bring these into their lives, like releasing to their higher presence, creating like practices of gratitude, of course, the alchemy of the contrast. So we're all going through this experience of up leveling very quickly, and how do we take that into the alchemization of love and not fear, and how do we use it as medicine for our to ascend into a higher level? How do we enhance our intuitive gifts as we're going through this, like what's happening with the earth and the frequency of the earth? Why are we moving through this now? It's all about that, and the up leveling and the new golden age that's upon us. So I've got everything like breath work, how to do that, and manifesting tools, everything that I learned through first my near-death experience at age 12, and then every mystical experience that has happened in my life after that. And they haven't been easy experiences, but I've been able to spiritually come back to my purpose through every one of them.
Now, what's up leavening and golden age that we're going through? What is that?
Many people will say that, we're in a time in the world that it feels like, people are struggling more. There's natural disasters, there's fear, there's, everything like war. I mean, we're going through so much.
And you're at San Diego right now, right? During
Yeah, with the
fire.
fires. Yeah, I mean, and then hurricanes and snowstorms and unprecedented cold. These are all like birth pains for waking up into something greater, coming into a greater time. And you'll notice that when you talk to near-death experiencers collectively, or you talk to people who work in like healing through light, we're all holding that vision. We've all been getting the same message that we are moving into a time where if we continue to choose love for each other, staying in love and not fear, non-judgment, not anger, that we actually can create a different world by seeing this stuff and trying to build light through it, a better world after it, if that makes sense. And so many of us have this vision that we are moving into a golden age, even though it does not feel like it. That's what this pressure is about, this collective pressure. And so it's almost like we're being asked to come together through love more and more.
I'm curious, since your near-death experience included Jesus and you're working with kind of more of a new age, what I would call practices, with the drums and the things, is that ever an issue?
No,
Okay.
I mean, Jesus came here to teach us how to connect to the I am, the higher version of us. His teachings were all about empowering us to connect to our God presence so that we could live as he did in the world. And he was an incredible teacher that was meant to help us be empowered and see our freedom of choice and our we could move into non-judgment, we could move into unconditional love, we could move in. So no, I mean, it's music, it's a gift. So much in this world has been used to divide us, to control us. Even, I mean, even the most beautiful thing can be contorted out of fear, right? That's why we are in the process of coming back to ourselves and identifying, no, is this love to me? Does this feel loving? Drums are loving, music is loving, but sound bowls are loving, channeling light is love, right? And to give away your power, right? And say that something else holds this energy rather than for yourself choosing what is light. That's dangerous territory, right? Like we don't need that. What we need is to come together, find the modality that works for us individually and collectively. And again, I would say as you move into that world, if you find a teacher that tells you anything but you are your highest teacher and guru, then I would walk away from that teacher. Because many people like to be that they're the one, they know it, or this is right and this is wrong, you know. But no, we choose. It's free will. We are our best teacher. We are the I am. We are the God presence within. We all hold that. And that is our journey that we're on. And so, you know, my gift is that people are attracted to me because they will benefit from my work. And the people who won't benefit from my work or, you know, maybe align with something else, they don't come to me. So I'm not seeing that at all. In fact, it's every single experience of my journey in this work in this world has been positive and beautiful, you know, and that's
You're
a
fortunate because I got a lot of flack for being a Christian in the ear. Like you got to stop saying God, you got to stop saying Jesus. Like,
well, I mean, that's the thing. We have our own, you know, experience. Like for me personally, that light had no name. I saw Jesus and I connect with Jesus and he is a great teacher for me. And I also see the value of other masters in this planet. And I know that God love is accessible to everyone. Like to everyone. There's no limitation on God, right? We have that. Every single one of us has that light within us and we can access it at any time when we choose. And so I think that's where I'm staying, right? Like that's my lane. So
yeah, and it's
no.
like, Jesus' main teaching is to love the least among us. So whoever we think is the least among us, well, there's our
Yeah.
work.
And it's funny because we always think of like I don't know, we even like I'm learning that sometimes when we get in a place of pain or we see pain in the world, we want to judge that. And so for me, the lesson has been, can I hold light for everyone? Even even if I know that what that person has done has caused pain, like that's my, you know, that's been a part of my lesson in mastery is that I can't limit the love. Who am I, right? To limit any God love, God presence, God energy. No, that's with God. And so, you know, holding that love amidst the most difficult times has been, you know, that's been my journey too. I'm human, so we all do it.
And I think we're all having a hard time these days because what is truth with social media and the different news channels and opposites, this and that? Where do you find truth? And so we could be hating somebody that, and
Yeah.
be any of that true. So,
It could be a good person. Like we could be manipulated by what we're hearing. It's all a story. Even in our mind, it's a story. Because we're shaped by our upbringing, by our religious background, by our friends, by our school, education, training,
our
everything.
fear.
Yeah, fear. I mean, yes, because I
Yeah.
mean, let's think about it. We can slip into fear, and then of course that thinking shapes everything. But yeah, I mean, right now it's even more so to come back to the self, to know thyself. And also we don't need to believe everything. You know, we can just choose to surround ourselves with those things that keep us in the light, in love, push the rest out, at least not to not be aware of it, not, you know, but to not let it consume us and or take us away from our path, our
Because
God.
almost always we can turn the channel, flip the page,
Yeah.
So,
That's the freedom of choice. And I think choice is becoming a huge issue right now. What do we choose to focus on?
Yeah.
It's our reality. What we focus on becomes our reality.
I saw somebody complaining about somebody made a post. Somebody has created a program for children that age out of foster care. And so there's people bashing children's services. There's people bashing foster care. There's some people wanting to get into foster care adoption. There's all these different opinions flying through. And I read them and I commented, all of you are right.
Hmm.
Now, where do we go forward? That's the question. Where do we go from here? So
Yeah, I mean, that's so well put, it's everyone is trying, I believe everyone's trying to do the best with the information that they have. There's misinformation, there's confusion, there's fear, there's even love that comes in. And, we act from those places, wanting to protect, wanting to serve, wanting to help, wanting to heal. And it's something that can continue to divide us. Or, like you said, we can find a way to take all of those things and use them to lift us. And I think we're moving into a time where we will lift each other and we will move out of this divisive energy that we've had.
I think the
Really.
first thing we all need to do is stop being so triggered.
And
You
that
know?
And I tell you, like once you master it at one level, sometimes it feels like life brings you something else to test that, to say, okay, all right, you have passed the test, you've stayed balanced through this. What about this? And what about this? And eventually, when we get to that place of loving detachment, where we can stay in love amidst all of it, I think that's when we're really starting to embody the teachings of Jesus. I
For
really,
me, if I'm in a bad way, I turn on my Christian music. Oh, I haven't listened to my Christian music. That's what's wrong with me. And it's like immediate. I'm
there's,
back there. I'm in that space where my happy place and life is
yeah,
good again. The horns go down, the halo comes up.
music is amazing. There's something, it's a gift to us. I think it's a gift from God. I know it is. I mean, I absolutely know because it healed me. And, just to be able to be in that energy and that vibration, it does change everything, especially when you feel the power and positivity of the words. I've been like even music that's mainstream music that I love, sometimes I find myself singing along, but changing the words because I know the power of language. And I'm not, and trust me, I'm not saying anything about music. I think all music is good. And as a music therapist, if it aligns with someone and allows them to express themselves, even if it's sad or they're going through something right now, that's good. But I personally have been reflecting on the power of language in my own life lately. And so as I'm singing, sometimes I just like leave out words or like I change it out for something positive, and it helps me to lift even more.
I know I started backing away from country music years ago because everything got to be drinking songs.
Yeah.
Party, yeehaw, like all the alcoholism, all the cheating, all the
I
and
do love country music so much. Like the lyrics and the storyline are just fantastic, and there's such musicianship. But yeah, it's something I didn't expect to talk about, but that's something lately I've been very conscious of. Language. What do we say to ourselves? Um, how do we receive language? The power behind the words. I mean, that's really important right now, I think.
I have noticed for me, if I start cussing, I gotta
Yeah.
just stop right there because it will get worse and worse and worse. And
Yeah.
I'll get angry or whatever. But if I can catch, oh, wait a minute, and then it's easy to just let go before I
Yeah,
get in this full blown craziness. It's like stopping
absolutely.
from going down a road. Don't go down that road.
What is that I think it's a Native American saying that we have two wolves that live in our hearts, the good wolf and the bad wolf. And, which one leads us? It's the one we feed, right? And so if you find that something takes you into a lower vibration, the active conscious removing of that is our practice. And that, like, I have so many practices, prayer, meditation, visualization, even small things like a bath or singing or dancing. Essential oils have been used for lifting my vibration. This, earth, plant, love, God love that comes through plants. All of these practices to take us into a different frequency, to take us out of that mindset. I think that's something we're being called to do now, is to really practice. Prayer
Yeah.
is the biggest one, really,
Yeah.
right now for me. Prayer and then sound, music would be my, I just put on an oil.
I have been trying to listen to my inner dialogue as loudly as if it was a conversation between me and my husband, to bring it that forward and that loud, to keep track of what is going on, to keep, I say my mother, I don't want to be like my mother, but sometimes I start feeling her energy. She passed away a year ago. The negative, dark energy and the mean talk and whoa, whoa, like I have to keep track of this. Yeah, I can't leave it in this subconscious level. I've got to, because it'll start coming out in
Yeah.
ways.
And that's a practice that I did right away after my near-death experience. It was like I would hear thoughts like that didn't align or were negative or even judgmental, especially driving, I find that. And I would just visualize the practice of that, letting that thought, it came up, let it be, but then also just like let it fly out the window. It's gone. I don't need that thought. I detach from it because it doesn't serve me. It's just as easy to create a story of positivity and love about the drivers on the road as it is to say and go into that negative story, because we create the story and it's all a story anyway. I mean, it's none of it's real. It's what we tell ourselves based on our experience. So if I can say, all right, I detach, and then send that out, it helps me to stay anchored into the more positive stuff. And that's something I still practice, but over time you find yourself just being more positive. And I love that you're noticing that. That's something they kind of downloaded to me at that age. Like, just, yeah, don't let it anchor, don't let it fester, like let it go.
I've been thinking lately, I'm going to be 64 next month. And I'm thinking, so if a chapter in our life, this is all a story, it feels like life is just, as you get older, you look back, your life is just this story. And if a chapter is 10 years, I might have a chapter or two left, or I might have a few paragraphs, I don't know. And how do I want to write that story? How do I want the ending to look? I don't want it to be you just laid there and did nothing in fear. I want to see that I rose above and conquered and didn't allow all that baggage to hold me down, that I let go of it and stepped out and had this wonderful ending. And so I want that ending. I could come look at it that way.
Yes, and you have the benefit of your NDE to anchor you in that. Um, and also the people you interview that bring you back to that, and that you're connecting with others to get that message. And it is a choice. We choose this life is a gift to be here. We're doing great work on this planet just by existing, whether we know it or not. We have great purpose, every single one, every person, every animal, every blade of grass, everything has meaning. So, yes, everything you said. Like,
And 2 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with only 25% use of his lungs. It was a hereditary thing 'cause he never smoked. And then we continue going through doctors and like they didn't give him any hope, told him to get his affairs in order and retire. And the only thing they could offer was a lung transplant. They didn't even recommend that. And all of a sudden, it was 95%.
oh,
And all the doctors like, this isn't possible.
it was it was 5%.
25.
It was
Lungs
25.
was 25%. And then he went and checked again, and it was 95.
I
And he
love
was that sick. I mean, he could hardly breathe, and then he was fine. And then last May, he got diagnosed with colon cancer. And during his colon surgery, they come out and said it's stage 4 because it went lymph nodes, it's in the liver. And so here we go again. And I felt like it actually helped having that lung diagnosis 2 years prior because we've already went through that grieving process.
Yeah, I bet.
Now we're into the end of a grieving process. We're not learning how to grieve. We already learned that. And so, but now his cancer's almost gone. So he goes next week and gets some little spots taken off his liver. But other than that, he's done real well. And
Oh,
so now we're like, okay, you're not dying. What are we going to do now? So we're gonna, I think we talked to some people today, and I had foster kids years ago. I had 60 foster kids. We adopted 10 and all of this. And the youngest is 30 now. He's been out of the house for 12 years. We got
yeah.
this empty nest. We're retired. So, and he's gonna live, right?
Yeah.
So, we're gonna go ahead and take the kids that's aged out of foster care.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, that's why it must be why you look so young because you have children to keep you young.
I don't know, but so that's what we're gonna do. And they're wanting to really like pack our home. Like, no, no, we're just gonna take it a few at a time, let it slowly get us
Yeah.
back used to this. We haven't done it in a while.
Mhm.
So see how much we
Yep.
can handle at our age.
Beautiful. I love that. I love
Because
it. And
I'm
that,
really, concerned about the Ohio's third in the country for human trafficking. And the majority of kids in human trafficking are ones that come out of foster care, the perpetrators and the victims.
yeah.
So I thought anything we can do to get those kids
Yeah.
and get them in careers or work or give them a job here helping. Um,
Yeah.
I'm wanting to, we got all these kids, thousands of kids don't have homes. They're homeless. And then we've got elderly that are trying to stay in their home but don't have anybody to help them.
Yes. What
So
a
I'm
per
wanting to build that bridge
and you can teach
eventually.
others that too. Like you can create a whole network, a whole community of people that learn from you, you
Yeah.
know, and through your experience and your gifts. Oh, I love that.
That's what we decided to do today. We talked to the people and okay, we can do this. We got Amish coming in, going to help us finish out our house. We got stuff we need to finish. And then that's what we're going to do.
I love that.
Because I want a good ending to my life story. I don't
Oh.
want that I just sat here and didn't do nothing and cried my Cheerios.
Exactly. Well, you're making it happen. That's what we call loving action. I think I remember reading somewhere about the law of balance that if you act in love on God's messages to you, that God gives you more to be thankful for, more to more life experience, more love, higher elevation of living, and so you're doing that. You're taking loving action to create that God plan on earth that's for you and your husband, it sounds like.
Yeah,
And the
yeah, he's on board. He says just one or two at a time, maybe three, but no, we're gonna not a time you're just starting out. We take it
yeah,
slow.
yeah,
So, I
perfect.
mean, there's a need, and we
There,
live in a very low crime area,
okay.
so
Yeah, good.
good place to get kids out of the city. So,
I'd love to follow your journey with that. I'd love to, if you're on social media as you build that, I'd love to see that come to life. Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'll send you a friend request because we'll be posting stuff as it goes on. So.
Yeah, perfect.
And
Thank
there's
you.
something else I found this morning. I won't try to remember the name of it, but I'm going to send it to you. It's some woman from like hundreds of years ago, but she had some kind of connection with music and like the very important like kings and queens, whatever, was coming to her for information. And I'll send it to you because I can't remember the details. But I had just happened to come across this morning, and then I thought of you. And I'm going to send that to her.
It'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll get this sent out to you later today.
Okay, thank you. It was a
And
joy
And
to
I'll
meet
put
you.
a link to your website in your book. Is there anything else in the
Well,
description?
the only other thing is I do have the website. I have my book, Waking Up in Heaven. I also do an online meditation group. It's through Facebook, but I'm moving it over to YouTube, where people just put a donation in and then they can access these like downloads of light every week so they can connect with their own God presence and see whatever they're meant to know and just bring in that light for their week. I do that every Wednesday. It's recorded so people can come anytime. They usually listen when they go to sleep, but some people come live 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And other than that, I travel the world doing this work. Headed to Kentucky in April, in Portland in May. So, and then Chicago, I think in August. So,
That on your website where you
you
go
know,
to?
I should put those on my
Okay.
website.
Now, do you
Yeah,
already have a YouTube channel?
I do. Yeah, it's
And
under
that's
my
where you're going to put it or a different one?
my
The,
YouTube. Yeah, that's where I'm going to
okay.
put it. Go to my
Okay.
website. Go to my
Okay.
website, get access to the meditation group and set the
Okay.
donation. And anyone who listens to this podcast and signs up can get their first month free with the code LOVE, LOVE.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy.
Good luck. Hope those
You,
fires stay gone. Get out and stay gone.
me too. Me too. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.